Hello, Sim here. So as I mentioned in my recent DumaOS video, Netduma are going to make an announcement this month, and one should have put 2 and 2 together. CES 2018, that Consumer Electronics Show, the big show off all your new toys. Oh yes, so as I mentioned in my previous video, I consider Netduma a software house. They happen to specialize in router software, but they don't produce hardware. And when I was speculating about what the heck they were going to do for an R2, because it's like, let's face it, the R1 isn't exactly overwhelming in specs from a CPU perspective, and we know it can struggle at times. And it's like, well, what are they going to do? And I speculated on using the same vendor. Well, guess what? They partnered up with Netgear, a well-known router company who also happens to produce a line of gaming routers. The kicker though, unfortunately for the community, which, you know, is not going to receive it well initially, and they're going to have to get over with it because this is business, life and everything else. It's a very smart move for Netduma to partner up with Netgear, but unfortunately this means at this point in time right now, you can go and get the Netgear XR500 for $300 in the US, so that's going to translate to £300 in the UK. When it eventually becomes available to buy, is the only way right now to go and get your hands on DumaOS. All of us who got the R1 routers are going to have to wait until the middle of April this year before we get DumaOS. Now there are multiple reasons, and some of you go, oh, it's all a marketing ploy and blah blah blah, they just want us to buy new routers and stuff. Now some of that could be true, but there are technical things that's going on. For one, the router from Netgear is basically 3 times more powerful. The amount of RAM it has is 4 times more. Yeah, so we got a 600 MHz CPU compared to a dual core, so that's 2 processors, really dumbing it down, running at 1.7 GHz. So, well, you could say, we could argue it's got 4 times more horsepower really on the CPU front, and it's got 512 megs of RAM versus 128 megs of RAM that the R1 hardware has got. So there's a lot more stuff they can do. Now, one of the other things is that they've, apart from making the interface more snazzy and stuff and dragging and resizing things and making custom dashboards so you can have your geo filter, your sort of like congestion control, device prioritization, network monitor all on one screen, however you want it and whatever size you want it, you've got all of that horsepower on this router. But also it's got automatic traffic prioritization, because you know and I know that on the Netduma R1 on the miscellaneous page there's this thing called deep packet processing, and I've always told you turn it off, because it's just going to kill your network bandwidth that you get. You're just going to lose it because the CPU is doing so much crunching it can't cope, and what happens, you lose bandwidth. But hey, you've got a dual core processor running at 1.7 GHz, so hey, we can do all this deep packet processing malarkey on the fly and automatically detect which games this is going for and automatically prioritize those packets with you doing nothing. There's no reactive or preemptive from the screenshots and little video snippets I've seen. So there's just a global congestion control slider for up and down, and that is it. It's just got one algorithm. Maybe it's got something more advanced, I don't know. But it is an interesting time ahead. So yeah, we got our anti-buffer bloat, that's what they call it now. So your congestion control is called anti-buffer bloat. You have the upload and download slider. It tells you a percentage and it gives a readout of your megabytes, you know 200 megs down, 112 megs up, if you're that lucky, which I'm not. You can do your bandwidth allocation. So for us, we consider that as device prioritization. What's interesting, if you look at the screenshot, is you've got download and upload available. You've still got the draggy sliders and from what I call flower petals, but there's no share access. So, I'm wondering if that's more of an advanced option that may be available, or maybe they've totally removed it, because if they have removed it, that's a bad thing from a Call of Duty World War II, because I use that a lot. As I mentioned, the traffic prioritization just happens automatically because they're calling it enterprise level deep packet inspection. So whether they got a little bit of IP from Netgear themselves or not, or they're just PRing it and, you know, hyping it up to call it enterprise level deep packet inspection, you know, I don't know. But it's interesting. The GUI looks clean, that's nice, and hopefully it's going to be nice and responsive. And one would expect it to be responsive. The geo filter looks quite interesting. There's a filtering mode and a spectating mode. Now I'm not quite sure what the difference here is. Probably enable / disable as we would know it. So, you know, your filter is kicked in and is taking an effect, or not. So if its filtering mode is enabled, the geo filter is taking effect, and spectating mode means while you can see your circles up for the other game that's on another console, but don't worry, we're not going to block any of those. You can just communicate to whatever, but you can see what's happening if you want to. Allow and deny is going to still be there as we know it, you know, whitelisting your friends and blocking hackers and all that jazz. Good stuff. So the spectating mode, of course, reading on screen says, oh, you can see your ping to global servers for your favorite PC game, including PUBG, CSGO and League of Legends. Network monitor, it's pretty much the same from the graph point of view, although rather than having good old vertical bars, well no, actually curvy chart, it used to be a curvy chart, we got a line plot. But what the interesting thing is, I don't know if you've watched the little demo that's on the Netgear site, is that you can go and click on one of these bars, so like on the red bar on a gaming PC or even on total usage, and drill down and see it. It's like if you've ever done a backup job, you'll drill down into one of these things to see that videos are using up 70% of your NAS storage and 20% is used up by photos and 10% is documents, for example. Well, it's exactly the same thing, but obviously social, networking, gaming, peer-to-peer, so like, you know, torrenting, all that kind of jazz. So it's an interesting thing. Certainly useful if you're living in a house where people download and do all sorts of things. It's a unique feature. But the network monitor is very useful to seeing how much bandwidth a game uses. That's what I'm predominantly interested in, and seeing how quickly stuff downloads or is finished without having to sit in front of a console and just watch it on the PC whilst I'm doing something else. As I mentioned earlier, I believe that of course you can go in, customize your dashboard, so that's quite nice. You can make your own custom dashboards and just put the various, I'm going to call them panels, little areas things, because they're each within a panel. Sorry, I'm using an Adobe term, I guess, really. But, you know, I do edit this in Premiere Pro. So that's what I'm thinking, that you can just customize it and have whatever you want to see. If you want your geo filter up there, or your ping, and you want to have like, you want device prioritization, or they call it bandwidth allocation here. But then you'd have maybe like the congestion control, which they call something else, slider in the top right hand corner rather than the network snapshot, for example, because you've got access to everything you want to see all in one go. Potentially you could have UPnP port listing there as well, for example, because you want to make sure that your favorite game is opening up the right ports, and you can quickly make sure that things are working. But you probably wouldn't be watching that on a regular basis and interacting. But the world's your oyster when it comes to how you want to customize it. So I touched on this earlier, and it's like, I know there's a big outcry, but oh, you mean we got to wait another 3 months or so before we can get DumaOS on our R1? It's a marketing ploy. You just want us to buy the Netgear router. And I understand that outcry. I do, because we've been waiting for it for so long. But obviously the focus has been developing the DumaOS for the Netgear predominantly. It's got significantly more horsepower when we're talking about CPU. It's got 4 times the amount of RAM. You know, it's got 5 GHz Wi-Fi, 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi. It's got MIMO, if I can pronounce that correctly, which means multiple wireless devices can communicate to the router simultaneously, not polling one at a time like a traditional router would do. And I guess the Netduma R1 router does. I may be wrong on that one, but there's a lot of routers out there that don't offer that capability. So you've got all this horsepower, you can do this deep packet processing to automatically prioritize gaming traffic without the user, i.e. you guys, doing anything. It just does it for you. But then you want to go and put it on a router that's only got 600 MHz of CPU power available, And who knows what the amount of cache is that was in the CPU. You know, in the PC world, we'd have the level 1 cache, level 2 and level 3 cache traditionally, right? We've just got one CPU, 600 megahertz. It's a teeny weeny bit of it. And there's going to be some features that are not going to be available on our DumaOS for Netduma R1 because this deep packet inspection will kill it. So I suspect some of the traditional features that we have right now for prioritizing like hypertraffic will possibly still be available on the R1 version of the DumaOS. Because it's got less horsepower, you're going to have serious optimization, and you're going to have to change, I'm going to call it add-ons. So trying to keep my thoughts all together, you've got a core operating system, the DumaOS, but I'm then going to say that I've got apps installed on top. Those apps being like the geofilter, the congestion control, device prioritization as we would know it, but it's been called something else now. Those kind of features, we've got the core operating system running quite nicely, but all this additional processing to make it more usable and gamer friendly takes a lot more horsepower. And now I've got to go and take that app away that I had for my Netgear router and replace it with a different app that does a very similar job on the surface and via graphical and GUI interaction, but has a completely different algorithm, or you know, that they've had to take out some of the advanced more serious processing and number crunching stuff because the R1 CPU just doesn't have it. And that's why you're going to have to wait for it to come out on the R1. This is my speculation. I have no insider knowledge. I have no affiliation with Netduma. I doubt for me, even though I'm probably one of the more authoritative YouTube channels out there who covers the Netduma, I won't get a review unit or anything like that. If you remember back when the R1 launched, all the big YouTubers, you know, Drifter and others, so you're talking 1 million plus subscribers or 100,000 subscribers and above, they'll get review units. Key gamers like those who play Call of Duty and stuff like that, they'll get them because obviously they want to promote it out there and make sure it gets out there. But I'm not saying it's not possible, but it doesn't make business sense for somebody who only has like 3,500 subscribers to have a review unit or get given one for free. I doubt that will ever occur. I'm not saying it won't, but because I know everybody's going to be asking, Sim, are you going to do a review on this Netgear XR500? Yeah, probably, most likely. I'm probably going to get overwhelmed for demand by you guys to do it, which means I'm going to have to spend some hard-earned cash that I didn't plan to spend on another router. Having only recently bought a Netgear XR500, and surprise surprise, it's got very similar specs. Dual core, 1.7 gigahertz, 512 megs of RAM and 128 megs of flash. Sounds very familiar. It's got 4 Wi-Fi things, it does MIMO, it does 2.4 gigahertz, 5 gigahertz. It feels like a R7800 rebadged, as I would call it in the traditional PC world, like a clone. I've just put it in a new plastic wrapping, you know, and put a Netduma OS badge on top of it. And I'm sure that's pretty much what it is, because it doesn't take a genius to go and look at the tech specs of the two units and go, yeah, they're pretty much identical. Now, of course, whether that opens up questions, is Netgear going to let us put it on another router in their family? And the honest answer from a business perspective is pretty much like no, because they want to make money. But they may do later on, providing they've got a way of flashing it and protecting their IP, because I talked about protecting their IP too. And we're going to have to wait and see what happens on that one, because I really don't know. But I suspect not. Obviously, Netduma is in partnership with Netgear, and Netgear is going to be calling the shots. You know, they're a multi-million, probably a multi-billion dollar type company, you know, and Netduma is a real small little peanut in the world of, you know, of businesses and stuff. You know, really small. But obviously, Netduma has had to go through a lot more, probably what we call formal testing and serious testing to really prove to certain standards and software standards and all this jazz to prove to Netgear that their software product that they're going to ship on, I'll call it a flagship gaming router, is really rock solid, is good, because obviously Netgear doesn't want to launch a product where it just flops and has serious software issues left, right and center at launch. It's bad for them, it's bad for Netduma. So this would have been a load of extensive testing. So there we go. I've rambled on quite long enough and probably just rotated screens and stuff because I want to keep this video short, sweet and simple and get something out there, because I know people are asking. I know there's disappointment that the R1 has got to wait until middle of April. I know, I felt the same disappointment, but I could understand it too, because I do know software and I know to optimize software to take it from one platform. It's like trying to run, let's say, Call of Duty World War II on a PS2. Good luck. It's challenging. How are you going to do it? You're going to dumb down the graphics big time. It's the only way you can do it. So there's a lot of give and take, and that's what they've got to go through there. Now that they've got a more stable, well-rounded OS that they can put different apps on, there's more flexibility there. Now, one of the very interesting things, I'm going to end it on this screenshot, is you see the roadmap for DumaOS that launched back in 2016, apparently, if you believe the vertical or sort of horizontal line, because I really can't remember it and I can't be bothered to go and look up to see when it really was announced. But you look at the bottom left and it says further launches and roadmap. So DumaOS will soon be launched on the Netduma R1, so if you've seen the forum post you know it's April, as a free upgrade, and that's really important. You have to remember they are giving you a completely brand new rewritten OS. I know gamers want everything for free and they want it now, but the important follow-on part of the sentence and the development of our roadmap begins. So what does that mean? Does that mean there's more stuff that happens to go on R1? Was the partnering with Netgear also fundamentally important from a business perspective to keep them alive? I told you software development is expensive. Where was all that money coming from to fund all of this stuff? Did Netgear go and give them a load of money to produce it and produce a customized version that's Netgear specific DumaOS? It's interesting, very interesting, and I don't know, but I do recognize the frustration of I wanted it today. I do. Because I would have wanted it today too. But that's life. It's very likely that I'm going to be doing a review and guide on the new DumaOS and stuff. Do I do it when Netgear XR500 becomes available in the UK at launch, so to speak, from a UK perspective? I don't know. Do I wait until the R1 availability comes out? But that's a 3-month wait, and I'm sure if I don't do it, it'll be bad for my YouTube channel. Even I have mixed feelings about this, because I have another Netgear router that's sitting in my house that is the same spec as the XR500. So there we go. £300 is a lot, but you're getting a lot of hardware and a lot of software for what you're getting, and it's a pretty simple to set up compared to traditional routers of that sort of price. And the type of complexity of a user interface on the traditional routers for power users, the interface is very simplified and made a lot more easier. But I'm hoping there's going to be more apps and stuff to make it much more interesting and stuff. So who knows when I'm going to do a Netduma video on the DumaOS. So as you can see, Sim's in a bit of a dilemma. Does he invest £300 when as soon as it becomes available to go and get that Nighthawk XR500 to do that review and setup guide that everybody wants to know from Sim? Whew, it's a challenging time ahead for me, I tell you. I don't know. But who knows what the future's got to hold, because I don't know. Nobody knows. I hope you enjoyed this video from a rambling perspective, and I've given you my view. And I'll re-emphasize it, I have no special relationship with Netduma whatsoever. Exactly the same when I did TP-Link videos. And And you go, oh yeah, but Sim, you must have known something because you got yourself a Netgear router. Nope, I just looked for something that was compatible and had serious horsepower for running lead, which is now getting merged in with OpenWRT. If I got it right, they're getting back together. But anyway, that's a completely separate topic. Anyway, hope you found the ramblings and my insight useful. I share your frustrations, but that's business, that's life, that's the way it's going to go. But remember, you're still going to get your DumaOS for your Netduma R1. It's just going to take another 3 months until it gets here. Oh well, what's another 3 months when you sum it up against 2 years waiting? Until next time, this has been Sim.